Hello, my name is Elsie Lobo, and I am a registered psychologist and part of the Early Learning Psychology team with Genesis Center, Edmonton Catholic Schools. This video is part 3 and the final installment of our 5-video series on family play. In this video, we get more practical. You may remember that we talked about different types of play in part 1B. In this section, we will share more ideas on exactly what this might look like at home. So by the end of the session, you will have a good idea of how to set up different play centers at home with materials and toys that are easily available or fairly common in most households already. We created this webinar to respond to some common questions that parents have. We want to describe how you can get started with some child-led play, how to introduce some variety, especially for those children who tend to play with the same things often, how to both combine child-led play while also maybe giving some structure or introducing new things into play, and then also how we can still provide a stimulating play experience for children even when we can't buy new toys or get new materials for them. We're going to talk and focus on 5 different types of play, which all provide a good balance for introducing a good variety and are fairly easy to set up with things that you already have at home. So these types will be messy or sensory play, constructive play, physical play, pretend or fantasy play, and creative play. So for the first one, called messy or sensory play, this kind of play refers to play that allows children to work with their hands or other parts of their body. It provides sensory experiences and input to help build connections between their body and mind, and can also have the effect of helping children feel more calm and regulated. And so when we talk about the different senses, these could include any of our 5 main senses, which would be touch, smell, sight, taste, or sound, but also could be things that engage their body in movement and balance. So if you look at the pictures here, in the handout, we included a recipe for Play-Doh, which is a great one to do with your child. They do need adult support because it uses hot water. But it's a great way to, even just making the Play-Doh itself is a great sensory experience for kids and gets them engaged. You'll see in the other pictures, there's a picture of like a water table or a water box, just using a storage container, which you may have at home, or even Tupperware, a larger Tupperware. And so you can do lots of things. You could put water in it, you could use sand, you could even use anything you might have at home, like lentils or beans or rice, and just put them in there. And then you can bury things in there, either have them fish them out with their hands or using a pair of tongs or a ladle, like in the picture here. Or kids can even just play and bring in their own toys and use it kind of like sand. So that's one really neat idea. And you'll see in the other picture, there's colored spaghetti. They used food coloring to color it. So even introducing kids to a variety of textures to play with can be really good. Along the bottom, there are pictures of things that stimulate different types of senses. So on the left is a rain stick. It's just a homemade one out of a paper towel roll. And then you can add either beans or sand or little beads or something like that inside of it. If you look online, there's lots of ideas for how to make these. And it can be really calming for kids to listen when you flip it over from one side to the other, to listen to whatever's inside kind of fall down. The second picture is a visual sensory bottle. And so these can be made just out of pop bottles. Again, the internet has lots of ideas for how to make homemade ones. You can add glitter or little rocks or all kinds of different beads into there to provide that visual stimulation. And then the last one is a picture of something that this child is kind of balancing on. And so it could be something like that filled with air. It could be like a mini trampoline, or even other things that they may have at home that they play with. So the second type of play we'll talk about is constructive play. So constructive play is play that encourages kids to use different types of materials to build something. It helps with their planning and their execution skills, their fine motor skills, and also with their creative thinking. And this is a great area where kids can have an idea. We can very much let them guide the play and use their ideas and imagination, and then just kind of support them as they go. And so there's lots of different materials that can be used. It isn't anything that necessarily has to be bought to specifically build with. So recycled materials are great for this stuff. Things like egg cartons, cardboard boxes, old pieces of fabric, shoe boxes, toilet paper rolls, popsicle sticks. If you have Legos or blocks at home, those are great. Even play or Play-Doh are good. And then usually just some basic craft supplies too are helpful, like tape or glue, scissors. And if you don't have those, they're pretty easy to purchase at the dollar store. So you'll see lots of different ideas of things to build. They can get pretty complex, like that little classroom on the bottom left, or they can be fairly simple, like on the top very right with the 4 kind of quadrants of a box that could be used as a house or whatever in that particular moment a child might want it to be. So there's lots of different opportunities for imagination in this area. So the third type of play we'll talk about is physical play. So physical play is really important for kids to help to regulate them again, emotionally, their physical energy. It helps with body coordination and build both gross motor skills, fine motor skills. And there's lots of different ways. We have been stuck inside a bit more and not really able to use playgrounds like we do otherwise during these COVID times. But there's lots of ways to engage kids in physical movement, even indoors or even just outdoors in open spaces. One way would be to build an obstacle course. So in the house, you could use chairs or tables to go over or under, blankets or anything you can make a tunnel out of, like those boxes on the bottom left, or even put pieces of paper on the floor for them to hop from one to the other, just being careful to secure them so they don't slip. You'll even see kind of towards the right side with the black and white picture, a little beanbag toss that was just created out of a box with some holes cut into it. And you can fill balloons up with sand as the beanbags, which work. On the bottom, they just took tape and made a ball sticky around all of the edges and tape on the wall as a target so you can kind of throw the ball and it sticks. And then in that last picture, a whole bunch of plastic cups stacked and then a ball being used. So it's like a bowling alley where they can knock down the cups and then set them up. So, and then there's always videos with different activities that kids can be pretty engaged in. So things like Cosmic Kids Yoga. There is the Go Noodle videos and Jack Hartman, and they keep them pretty engaging for kids to do. So those are always good to mix in as well. The fourth type of play, that we will talk about is called pretend play or fantasy play. So pretend play is a more loosely structured type of play that allows kids to role play using pretend objects or pretending objects or something else. And this form of play is really great. It helps kids experiment with language, emotions, decision-making as they role play, and even lets them use their social skills and practice different behaviors in various situations. So it's a really great form of play, and there's lots of ways you can do this. You don't really necessarily need to have fancy or expensive costumes. Even just pieces of fabric help stimulate even more creativity, right? Kids can use them either as a skirt in one situation by wrapping it around, or use it as a cape or as a belt. So things like just having some spare fabric or old hats or shoes or old costume jewelry that you may have, or even helping them to build something that they might like out of cardboard, like a sword if they wanted to play fight or things like that. And one of the things you can do is kind of have a prop box corner. So that bottom middle picture, you can kind of just make a box and decorate it with your child, and have it to keep all the stuff in. So when they feel like engaging in this type of play, or if you want to do it together, you just kind of go to the box and have a variety of things in there. And as things you want to recycle from your house, you can always add to the box or get rid of things as you go. So it can always be evolving to keep their imagination going. And then the last type of play we're going to talk about is creative play. And creative play, it can engage a lot of the other types of play as well, but essentially it allows for self-expression and the development of their own ideas. So like I said, it brings together a lot of those other forms of play and then builds skills in planning, motor skills, translating ideas into reality, and nurtures their imagination. So if you look at these pictures, you'll see a lot of them are things made out of cardboard, some of them more complex, some of them more simple. Um, and then on that very last image to the very right, you'll see a little street just drawn on a piece of paper on a table, and they've brought in lots of different toys. You can build building out of blocks or Lego or Play-Doh, introduce little people um, to engage in the imaginative play, the creative play there. So there's lots of opportunities for supporting your child, helping them to be child-led while still kind of supporting them. And you can always ask lots of questions along the way too to keep building your relationship with them. Like asking them, what is that? What else might you do with something like that? Or how can I help you? Or what role would you like me to play? So there's lots of ways to engage while still letting them take the lead. Well, that is all for this video. Thank you for listening and for watching our series on family play. Feel free to reach out to our team if you have any questions, and keep your eyes open. We're going to be looking to build more interaction with all of you as we move forward. And so keep your eyes open for ways that we can engage more with each other as we move forward. And we will also have more videos coming up as we go. Thank you. Take care.